And welcome back. In this tutorial I'm going to show you how you can use the clicked and double clicked events using the WText widget in the Witty library. In the next tutorial I'm going to show you how to use the mouse went out and mouse went over events also when using the WText widget in the Witty library. So as you can see, I have a project called WText 4 already up and running. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to change some of this code so you can see actually how a event is generated using the WText widget. I'm not going to go real deep into the Witty events because I'm going to leave that as another tutorial, probably even a series, but I just want you to show some of the additional things that you can do with the WText widget and with some of the other widgets in the library. This applies to quite a few widgets. So I'm going to add the WText header, and we're going to change this. Actually, I'm going to delete this, and we're going to call this WText, call it response, like we've done in some of our other tutorials, our WText, and we're going to add it to our widget tree. Okay. We have our text, we've added it to our Witty container root, our Witty application root, I should say. And we're going to change this to a header. And I'm just going to make the text Witty text exclamation point. And that's really simple. Now what we want to do, we want to generate a couple of events. In this case, clicked and double clicked. And let me pull up the Witty documentation. And let's go back one. And as you can see, I have the Witty text already pulled up. And if you scroll down, if you look at the tree that they have here, everything inherits from the Witty objects. Notice how Witty text inherits from the Witty interactive widget. The Witty interactive widget basically allows you to have events that are generated for your application. So in our case, if we collapse the public functions for this actual widget, you have key went up, key press, key went up. I went over a couple of this, how to actually mimic this using signals and slots. And you can see we have clicked and double clicked. And this is two of the events that I actually want to go over. I don't want to delve too much into events because I'm going to make that its own series. But I just want to show you how you can actually use this in the Witty library using a WText widget. So what we're going to do is define two functions. And the first one we're going to do is going to be called clicked. And it has to take a signature of a mouse event, a Witty mouse event. I'm not going to give that variable a name. And then you define the prototype at the top. Then we're going to define the actual implementation at the bottom. So I did a copy and paste. And what we want to do is I'm going to access the global variable called, I call it Witty app. It's basically nothing more than the Witty application instance. It's a global variable that allows you to access the application from anywhere in your application. And we access the root object. And what we want to do is access the decoration style object. Now this allows you to have some limited amount of cascading style sheets, or basically allows you to style the widget in your application. And basically what I'm doing here is I'm actually styling the widget when we actually click on the WText widget. So as you can see, if you look at the code, what I've done here is I've accessed the Witty root object, the Witty container widget, accessed the decoration style class, or object I should say, it is now an object, but it is the Witty CSS decoration style class, and then access the background color. We're setting the background color of the entire application. So in this case, we're going to set the color And I just use RGB values. In this case, I'm going to use 255 for the first value. And now what we want to do is actually connect the signal and the slot. So what we want to do here is access the clicked event or the click signal, call connect, and take the address of this function, and it is called clicked. So once we click on this response widget, this will be called, and it'll change the background color of our application. Let's go ahead and save this. Let's run CMake. As you can see, I've already run it once. And then let's compile the application. See if we got any errors. It's looking good so far. Okay, our executable has been moved. Let's run the application. I'm not going to get a prompt because I already actually ran this application before. And then let's run this in Google Chrome. So what I'm going to do is go to localhost 9090. As you can see, here's our WText. And if I click on it, it changes the background color to red. So that was our value. 255 is the color red. And notice we didn't set the other values. So basically all you're doing is setting the background color for the entire widget. And if you look at this, you can see that the actual application itself, unless you set parameters for the width and the height, you see it doesn't take up the entire browser window, especially depending on the resolution of your monitor. As you can see, this only takes up a small amount of the browser screen, but it takes up almost the entire width. And you see you even have a couple of some padding in here. That's just the way that the widgets are implemented using cascading style sheets. If you look at the code and the code behind the source, you can actually see that. I'm not going to do that right now, but you can see that it doesn't take up the entire browser window. So basically we have our clicked event. Now we want to do double clicked. So what I'm going to do is define a function. I'm going to call it double clicked. And it's basically the same thing as before, because this is a witty mouse event. I have to give it this signature. The function could be called anything. And we're going to call this double clicked. And I could have just copy and pasted it, but that's okay. And as you can see, it's the same thing. So we're going to copy and paste this. We're going to change this to 0. Change this to 255. Give it a different color. I'm going to close my currently running server. And we're going to compile the application. Well, I take that back. Actually, this will compile, but what we want to do really next is do double clicked. Access the double clicked signal or event, and then pass in the function that we're going to use for that. So double click. Jump the gun there. So as you can see, we've actually attached the signal double clicked to our slot called double clicked. Now we're going to compile the application. And I've noticed this is not perfect. You have to make sure you position the mouse at a certain angle, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Let's run it. Server's up and running. If we do our refresh, takes it back to white. We click on it, turns it to red. See what I'm talking about? If you double click, it's being generated, but you have to position it just right. And as you can see, when we did a double click, it changed the value to a light green color, or basically green. If we just click on it, click out of it, changes it to red. If we double click on it, it's not perfect. Changes it from, try that again, to green. Just click on it, change it to red. So as you can see, you can actually do your own events using just the WText object in the Witty library. And if you look at the documentation, there are a slew of events. This is basically JavaScript being handled behind the scenes, really. If you don't have JavaScript enabled, you won't be able to see some of the, at least the double clicked. I know the clicked event will be generated. But if you just look at this, we have a slew of events. You can even, if you want to do an app, you could do touch gestures. If you want to do key presses, you can do key presses. In the next tutorial, I'm going to actually do a mouse one out, mouse one over, so you can actually see what happens when you move the mouse in and out of the control. So I'll show you that in the next tutorial. Bye-bye.